The episode starts in what might easily confuse a black and white serial. It's the story of that enemy of crime.
Those with evil hearts, beware, for out of the darkness comes the Grey Ghost.
Given the recent crossover series between Batman and the classic hero The Shadow, you probably already heard this to death, but just in case, Batman was heavily influenced by The Shadow. In fact, in the early days of the character, Batman was seen carrying and even using guns, much like The Shadow, who believed that the only death penalty needed was his pair of .45s. Batman soon drifted into the code against killing system that he would be known for, and especially the no guns rule, so enshrined in those early years that its reasons are one of speculation, but ones of respect, even when the transition was made for Batman to his more pulp-like origins, when he stopped being the camp character he was known for, thanks in no small part to the live-action Adam West version. They still respected that rule, with a few rare exceptions. But nevertheless, the influence of the Shadow on Batman goes without saying, so it's wholly appropriate that this character, a stand-in for the Shadow, is presented as an inspiration to a young Bruce Wayne.
The Mad Bomber.
Excuse me, he prefers to be called the I Just Hear These Voices bomber. In the present day, Batman notes the destruction of the Gotham Plastics factory, just like in the Mad Bomber episode.
Pay up or pay the consequences. $1 million in cash or the Piedmont Bank is next. Signed, the Mad Bomber.
Gotta be mad if he wrote up a ransom demand and then nearly disintegrated it in his own explosion. What if there wound up being more holes in the note? They could have had no idea what he wanted. He wants one lion? Why would he want a lion? He admits he's mad in the note, Jerry. Let's just head to the zoo and get this over with. In the present, Batman finds the same thing at the site of another bombing, and once again demanding a payment of $1 million.
Don't you think we should maybe ask for more than $1 million? $1 million isn't exactly a lot of money these days.
So Batman wonders about what had happened and goes home to think about it. No, I don't want a clown for my birthday. Clowns are evil. Clowns are my nemesis. He finally remembers that he saw this on an episode of The Grey Ghost, so he heads to a collector who has every show ever made, so that he can review the episode. Only The Grey Ghost is a lost series. The studio and all the negatives went up in flames. No doubt the work of the rather unstable arsonist. Since this is before IMDb, the one lead that he has is to find someone who made it, so Bruce heads to the Television Actors Guild to dig through the archives and finds out the titular character was played by Simon Trent, who was living in a rundown apartment with little beyond all his Grey Ghost memorabilia. The landlord is demanding the rent, but he can't seem to get any parts. He's been typecast as the Grey Ghost. As you might have noticed, Simon Trent is voiced by Adam West, who of course was typecast as Batman thanks to the aforementioned camp TV series. Keep in mind this was the early 90s, before Adam West had a comeback of sorts, eventually embracing his place in pop culture as both Batman and the guy typecast as Batman. In other words, later works played on the idea of him being typecast, but while there was a bit of humor to it, even if it was out of respect for the man, but where the Grey Ghost plays this completely straight. Simon Trent's situation is not a punchline here. It's not hilarious that a has-been actor is playing a has-been actor. It's a tragedy showing the way a performer can so touch the audience that they unwittingly destroy their own careers. After all, it's not Ryb Liefeld who's sitting in a barren apartment pouring ketchup over ramen heated over a hot plate. I mean, that at least we could get behind. With no prospects, Trent has no choice but to sell the last of his Grey Ghost materials, well, whatever he didn't smash, as well as the costume itself. But to his shock, when he wakes up the next day, it's all restored, along with a note asking for a meeting. He's not sure what to make of it naturally, and is a bit shocked to find it's Batman who's waiting for him.
I need you to remember how it was done.
I made hundreds of those shows. They're all a blur.
Just one endless string of special effects and pussy. Boy, those girls love the suit. But then an actual building explodes from the Mad Bomber right in front of them.
Wait!
You'd think the guy never seen a lunatic tossing around explosives before. Batman is waiting for him at home, though, pointing out that Trent recognized the sound preceding the explosion. And finally, Trent agrees. It turns out he has his own personal copy of all those long-lost episodes. Hey, I know it's a long shot, Bruce, but check to see if he's got any Doctor Who in there.
I used to admire what the Grey Ghost stood for.
I'm not the Grey Ghost.
I can see that now.
I can't believe you convinced me to buy stamps to support the Vietnam War. But he takes the film can home and watches it, slowly transitioning to himself as a boy watching this same show. A nice illustration of that sense of nostalgia that creeps over you, finding that moment from a childhood long gone. But it's not just fun and games. He hears the same sound he heard at the last bombing, and it's revealed to be a toy car packed with explosives. The worst mistake in toy manufacturing since Play-Doh accidentally shipped tubs filled with plastique. The police are warned, that way they can prevent the bombs from going off. Nicely done, Officer Friendly. Batman takes out another one, but the third turns out to be a dud. No explosives. Have to send a letter to the company to complain. But this is a trap. More bomb cars are coming at him, and it's only thanks to the timely intervention of someone that he escapes. And it's... You still have a hero's sense of timing. Actually, I've got a gig opening a new Red Lobster and noticed you were in trouble. Here's a coupon for 10% off shrimp if you want it. He invites Trent to come along while he investigates the toy car, although they are soon pursued by a bunch more of the little bastards. But luckily there's some oil slick to help. Kind of seems like the opposite of helping, doesn't it?
Hey, we did it, partner!
If you want the job, you can have it, but the costume has tights and tiny shorts. They return to the Batcave, where Trent is amazed to discover the place is nearly a replica of his fictitious headquarters, even with a small area set aside for his Grey Ghost memorabilia. So you can imagine the disappointment when Batman finds the fingerprints on the toy car are that of Trent himself, and concludes he must be the bomber. He knows of the episode, he had the props, and he certainly needs the money. But Trent insists that he sold all his toy cars. And does he look like he has the setup to orchestrate this? The guy had to sell his clothes to pay the rent. It's not like he's going out and buying explosives. But they realize who it really is, the shop owner who bought the Grey Ghost merchandise. He did this so that he could buy more toys. Which, at least it's a worthy cause. With Batman trapped, the toy collector is free to monologue, but he's unprepared for the Grey Ghost swooping through the window on a rope, and since lifting toys isn't much of a cardio workout, the guy folds like a road map. A fire is started in the confusion of collapsing shelves, and of course, that old Chinese paint burns like napalm, so the whole place goes up, helped along by the exploding toy cars. And thanks to those missing episodes, Trent can make a comeback with their video release and reprises himself as the Grey Ghost. So there's a happy ending. Assuming he's not crying behind those goggles at being trapped in this role until they slide him in a pine box. Anyway, the end. Beware the Grey Ghost works so effectively because, even though the audience has no attachment to the fictional character, it successfully recaptures the sense that the audience itself possesses for such things, putting us in the place of Bruce so well. Adam West's presence is also very good. He's not pitiable, but tragic. It's not self-parody. It's a human look at the price of being frozen in the minds of the public. The threat of the Mad Bomber is incidental to all of that. It's the story of two men, one struggling with this burden, the other trying to reconcile the conflict between childhood fantasy and reality. An enjoyable, character-centered outing.
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
And they're giving important support to the cause of freedom and the men who fight for us in Vietnam.